Have you ever felt that no matter how hard you try or how much you pray, the blessings just don't seem to flow into your life as you hope? It's as if there's an invisible barrier preventing you from moving forward, a feeling of stagnation affecting your finances, relationships, and even your spiritual growth. That emptiness in your wallet, those unpaid bills, the opportunities that slip through your fingers, they all seem to be connected to something deeper than just bad luck. What if I told you that Padre Pio, one of the most powerful saints of our time, revealed a simple yet profound practice that has been changing lives around the world? A practice so accessible that you can do it tonight in the privacy of your own home, yet so powerful that it has the ability to dissolve spiritual blockages that have been holding you back for years. The mysterious connection between our spiritual state and our material prosperity is something few people truly understand. But Padre Pio, with his profound spiritual gifts, recognized that our hands, these incredible instruments given to us by God, can either channel divine abundance or become conduits of limitation, depending on their spiritual condition. Throughout history, there have been sacred practices that serve as bridges between our physical reality and the divine realm. The one I'll reveal today is particularly special because it directly addresses the energetic and spiritual condition of your hands, the very tools you use to work, receive, and create your reality. Before we dive deeper into this revelation, I want you to reflect for a moment. How would your life change if the floodgates of prosperity suddenly opened? If the opportunities you've been praying for started manifesting in unexpected ways? If that sense of scarcity was replaced by a profound trust in divine providence? This isn't about material wealth alone. It's about aligning yourself with the abundance that God has always intended for you. It's about removing the spiritual obstacles that have been blocking His blessings from reaching you in their fullness. If you're ready to discover this transformative practice, write in the comments, Padre Pio, guide my hands. This simple act of faith will be your first step toward the abundance that awaits you. Now let me share with you this ancient wisdom that has remained hidden from most people, yet has the power to transform your financial and spiritual reality in ways you never thought possible. For centuries, spiritual teachers and saints have understood something that modern society often forgets. There is a profound connection between our spiritual condition and our material circumstances. When we experience persistent financial struggles, relationship difficulties, or a lack of opportunities, we're often facing more than just bad luck or poor decisions. We're dealing with spiritual blockages that affect the very fabric of our reality. Padre Pio, with his extraordinary spiritual gifts, could see these blockages clearly. With his penetrating gaze, he could observe how negative energies, unresolved emotions, and spiritual interferences could cling to a person, creating barriers that prevented God's blessings from flowing freely into their lives. He knew that sometimes our hands, these marvelous instruments we use to receive and create, become spiritually contaminated, turning into obstacles rather than channels of divine abundance. In the book of Genesis, we learn that God formed humans from the dust of the earth with His hands, and then breathed life into us. Our hands were designed to be extensions of divine creativity, instruments of giving and receiving. Yet, in our daily lives, our hands touch objects, interact with energies, and participate in situations that can leave spiritual residues, creating invisible barriers to prosperity. Think about it. How many times have you extended your hands to receive what you've been praying for, only to find that somehow the blessing seems to slip through your fingers? How often have you worked diligently, yet struggled to see the fruits of your labor manifest in abundance? These are often signs that your hands, your spiritual receivers, may need purification. The ancient practice I'm about to share with you is rooted in biblical wisdom. In the Old Testament, salt was used in every offering as a symbol of God's covenant. Jesus himself referred to his followers as the salt of the earth, highlighting salt's purifying and preserving qualities. In Catholic tradition, blessed salt has been used for centuries as a sacramental for protection, purification, and blessing. When Padre Pio ministered to those struggling with financial difficulties or blocked blessings, he often prescribed specific spiritual practices involving blessed elements. He understood that sometimes we need physical actions that serve as bridges to spiritual transformation. These weren't superstitions, but rather sacred acts that engaged both faith and intention, creating openings for divine grace to flow more abundantly. The practice of washing one's hands with blessed salt is one such sacred act. This humble ritual acts on multiple spiritual levels. It cleanses accumulated negative energies, breaks patterns of scarcity, and prepares your hands to become proper vessels for receiving divine abundance. It's a physical gesture that reaches into the spiritual realm, aligning your being with the prosperity that God desires for you. Now, allow me to share the powerful testimony of Michael, a small business owner who had been struggling for years to keep his company afloat. Despite his hard work, dedication, and constant prayers, he found himself sinking deeper into debt with each passing month. Business opportunities would appear promising at first, but would mysteriously fall through at the last moment. He consulted financial advisors, attended business seminars, and even increased his charitable giving, but nothing seemed to break the cycle of scarcity that had gripped his life. "I was at the end of my rope," Michael recalls. "I had 3 employees who depended on me for their livelihoods, a family to support, and creditors calling daily. My faith was being tested like never before. I would pray for hours, asking God why he had abandoned me, wondering if I had done something to deserve this punishment. Then, through a chance encounter with an elderly woman after Mass one Sunday, Michael learned about this special practice involving blessed salt. The woman shared how her own family had used this tradition, passed down through generations, to remove blockages and invite prosperity during difficult times. With nothing left to lose, Michael decided to try it. For 7 consecutive days, he performed the ritual I'm about to teach you, combining it with specific prayers and a heartfelt devotion to Padre Pio. What happened next defies conventional explanation. Within 2 weeks, a client who had disappeared months earlier suddenly returned with a major contract offer. A bank that had previously denied his loan application called to reconsider, and a series of new business opportunities began to appear, as if out of nowhere. It wasn't magic, Michael emphasizes. It was as if something that had been blocking God's blessings was finally removed. I still had to work hard, make wise decisions, and exercise good stewardship, but now it felt like I was swimming with the current instead of constantly against it. Michael's story isn't unique. Throughout history and across different cultures, people have intuitively understood that our hands serve as spiritual conduits. When these conduits become blocked or contaminated, our ability to receive and manifest abundance becomes hindered. The ritual of purifying one's hands with blessed salt addresses this spiritual reality directly, creating an opening for divine grace to flow more freely. Now, I'm going to reveal to you the powerful practice that has transformed countless lives, the sacred ritual of hand purification with blessed salt that Padre Pio recommended to those seeking to remove blockages and open the channels of prosperity. This is not merely a physical act, but a deeply spiritual practice that works on the invisible energetic layers of your reality. The purification ritual is remarkably simple, yet profoundly effective when performed with genuine faith and intention. Here's how to properly perform this sacred practice. You'll need 3 simple elements, each with its own spiritual significance. First, a small bowl of pure water representing God's grace and purification. Water has been used since biblical times as a symbol of cleansing and renewal. Just as water washes away physical impurities, it also helps dissolve spiritual blockages. Second, about 3 tablespoons of salt, preferably sea salt or Himalayan salt, though regular table salt will suffice if that's all you have available. If possible, have your salt blessed by a priest, but if that's not immediately possible, you can say a prayer over it yourself, asking for God's blessing upon it. Salt represents preservation, wisdom, and protection. In spiritual terms, it acts as a natural energy cleanser, absorbing negative influences and purifying the space around it. Third, a small white towel or cloth to dry your hands afterward, representing purity and new beginnings. Now, here's the sacred ritual as inspired by Padre Pio's teachings. Begin by finding a quiet space where you won't be disturbed. This could be at your home altar if you have one, or simply a peaceful corner of your home. Light a candle if you have one, as this helps create a sacred atmosphere and symbolizes the presence of the Holy Spirit. Place the bowl of water before you, and with reverence, add the salt to the water, making the sign of the cross as you do so. As you mix the salt and water with your finger, pray, "Lord, bless this water and salt, that it may become an instrument of your divine grace and prosperity in my life." Through the intercession of Padre Pio, I ask that this mixture become holy and purifying. Now take a moment to enter a prayerful state. Close your eyes and take 3 deep breaths, releasing any tension or worldly concerns. Call upon Padre Pio in your heart, asking for his powerful intercession. When you feel centered in prayer, slowly immerse your hands into the salt water. As you do this, visualize any negative energies, blockages, or limitations being drawn out of your hands and absorbed by the salt. See the water glowing with divine light, purifying not just your hands, but your whole being. While your hands are immersed, pray these words or something similar from your heart. Padre Pio, through your powerful intercession, I ask that any blockages to God's abundance be dissolved from my hands and my life. Cleanse my hands of any negativity, any patterns of scarcity, any spiritual interferences that prevent me from receiving God's blessings. Open the pathways of divine prosperity and prepare my hands to become worthy vessels of God's generosity. Remain with your hands in the water for about 2 minutes, continuing to pray and visualizing divine light flowing through your hands, restoring them to their original purpose as channels of God's abundance. After this time, slowly remove your hands from the water and allow them to air dry for a few moments before gently patting them dry with the white cloth. As you dry your hands, say, "I give thanks for this purification. My hands are now cleansed channels for God's prosperity to flow into my life. According to my faith and God's will, let it be done. For optimal results, perform this ritual for 7 consecutive days, preferably in the evening before going to bed." The number 7 has special biblical significance, representing completion and divine perfection. If your situation is particularly challenging, you might consider extending this practice to 21 days, which represents a complete spiritual transition in many traditions. It's important to understand that this ritual is not a magical formula, but rather a sacred act of faith. Its effectiveness depends largely on the sincerity of your heart, your trust in God's providence, and your openness to receiving His blessings. Approach it with reverence and genuine spiritual intention. After completing the 7 days, you may notice subtle shifts beginning to occur in your life. Perhaps unexpected opportunities will present themselves, or solutions to financial problems may emerge from unexpected sources. Some people report experiencing a newfound sense of peace and trust in divine providence, which itself becomes a powerful attractor of abundance. Now, before we continue, I want to share something special with you. Many of you have asked for deeper guidance on how to incorporate Padre Pio's spiritual practices into your daily life. That's why we've created a special ebook called The Spiritual Secrets of St. Padre Pio. This comprehensive guide contains powerful prayers, reflections based on his teachings, and practical advice for strengthening your spirituality through his intercession. If you've been touched by the wisdom I've shared today and want to dive deeper into these transformative practices, you'll find the link to this special resource pinned in the comments below. This isn't just another book. It's a spiritual companion that can help you navigate life's challenges with the guidance of one of the most powerful saints of our time. Now, let's continue with our exploration of this sacred practice. Remember, the ritual of hand purification is just the beginning, a doorway opening to a new relationship with divine abundance. As you perform it, remain attentive to subtle guidance, inspirations, or opportunities that may present themselves. These are often the ways in which spiritual transformation begins to manifest in the material world. To truly understand the power behind this sacred practice, we must delve deeper into its spiritual foundations. This isn't merely a ritual. It's a profound act of faith that aligns us with ancient wisdom and universal spiritual principles that have been understood by saints and mystics throughout the ages. Padre Pio, with his remarkable spiritual gifts, understood something fundamental about our human condition. We exist simultaneously in both the physical and spiritual realms. The material challenges we face, whether financial struggles, blocked opportunities, or persistent scarcity, often have spiritual roots that need to be addressed at their source. This understanding wasn't unique to Padre Pio. It's woven throughout biblical teaching and Catholic tradition. In the Gospel of Matthew, Jesus teaches us, "For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." This profound statement reveals the intimate connection between our material circumstances and our spiritual condition. Our hands, the primary instruments through which we interact with the material world, become symbolic bridges between these two realms. When Jesus healed the sick, he often did so by laying his hands upon them, transferring divine energy through these physical extensions of his being. The practice of purifying our hands with blessed salt and water draws directly from this biblical understanding. In the Old Testament, the priests would wash their hands before entering the Holy of Holies or performing sacred rituals. This wasn't merely for physical cleanliness, but for spiritual preparation, making themselves worthy vessels for divine interaction. Salt was a crucial element in every offering made to God, symbolizing the covenant relationship and serving as a preservative against corruption. When we examine the life of Padre Pio more closely, we discover his deep understanding of how ordinary elements could become extraordinary conduits of divine grace when used with faith. He often used blessed oil, water, and salt in his ministry of healing and deliverance. For Padre Pio, these weren't superstitious practices, but rather sacramentals, physical signs that disposed people to receive God's grace more effectively. The hands, in particular, held special significance for Padre Pio. As a stigmatic who bore the wounds of Christ in his own hands, he experienced firsthand the reality that our hands can become powerful channels of both receiving and giving divine energy. He often taught that our hands could either open us to God's blessings or, when spiritually contaminated, become obstacles to receiving them. When we immerse our hands in the blessed salt water, several spiritual dynamics come into play. First, there is the element of surrender, physically and symbolically placing our capability to work and receive into God's care. Second, there is purification, the salt acting as a spiritual cleanser that absorbs negative energies and breaks harmful attachments. Third, there is consecration, dedicating our hands anew to becoming instruments of divine purpose rather than merely tools for personal gain. The timing of this ritual also carries spiritual significance. Performing it in the evening allows the purification to work through the night, traditionally understood as a time when spiritual activity intensifies. The 7-day duration connects us to the biblical pattern of completion and perfection, as seen in the creation story and throughout Scripture. Elizabeth, a widow in her 60s, provides a profound testimony to the transformative power of this practice. After losing her husband to cancer, she found herself not only grieving his loss, but also facing severe financial hardship. The medical bills had depleted their savings, and the small pension she received barely covered her basic needs. "I felt lost in every way," Elizabeth shares. "Spiritually, emotionally, and financially, I was drowning. I would sit at my kitchen table each month, trying to figure out how to pay my bills, and it felt like a dark cloud was constantly hanging over me. I prayed, but it felt like my prayers weren't being heard." Through a prayer group at her parish, Elizabeth learned about the hand purification ritual and began practicing it faithfully. "I approached it with complete surrender," she recalls. "I had nothing left to lose and nowhere else to turn." During the third day of her practice, Elizabeth experienced something unusual. "As I was praying with my hands in the salt water, I felt a warmth spreading through my fingers and up my arms. It wasn't just physical, it was as if something was being released from deep within me. I began to cry, but they were tears of relief, not sadness." In the weeks that followed, Elizabeth's circumstances began to shift in unexpected ways. A distant relative whom she hadn't spoken to in years contacted her about some family property that was being sold. Her portion of the inheritance was enough to clear her remaining medical debts. Then, a neighbor offered her a part-time position helping with bookkeeping for their small business, providing her with both additional income and a renewed sense of purpose. The most significant change wasn't even the financial improvements, Elizabeth emphasizes. It was the lifting of that heavy feeling of abandonment. "I began to trust again, to trust that God was with me, that I wasn't facing this journey alone. And that trust itself seemed to open doors I couldn't have imagined." Elizabeth's experience reflects a pattern that many have observed. The ritual often works first on the internal spiritual level, removing blocks of fear, resentment, unworthiness, or abandonment that have become obstacles to receiving. As these internal blockages dissolve, external circumstances begin to align with this new spiritual reality. It's important to understand that this practice isn't about manipulating God into giving us wealth or material possessions. Rather, it's about removing the obstacles, many of which we've unintentionally created ourselves through fear, negative thinking, or spiritual wounds that prevent us from receiving the abundance that God already desires for us. As Jesus teaches in the Gospel of Luke, "Give, and it will be given to you. A good measure, pressed down, shaken together, and running over, will be poured into your lap." This scripture reveals the natural state of abundance that God intends for us, not scarcity, not barely enough, but running over. When we experience chronic lack or blockage in our financial affairs, we're experiencing something contrary to divine design. The salt purification ritual helps restore our hands, and by extension, our entire being, to their intended function as open channels of both giving and receiving. It breaks the spiritual patterns of scarcity and limitation that may have been established through generations of struggle, negative experiences, or even ancestral hardships. Padre Pio often spoke about how our current struggles can be connected to spiritual patterns that extend beyond our individual experiences, sometimes even to family patterns or ancestral burdens. The salt, with its biblical significance as a covenant element, has the spiritual power to dissolve these long-standing patterns, creating space for new possibilities aligned with God's abundance. As you practice this ritual, remember that you are participating in something far deeper than a mere physical act. You are engaging in a sacred tradition that connects you to the communion of saints, to biblical wisdom, and to the transformative power of faith made tangible through intentional action. As you begin to practice this powerful ritual of hand purification, it's important to be aware of common challenges that may arise along your path to prosperity. Understanding these obstacles beforehand prepares you to navigate them with faith and perseverance, ensuring that you receive the full benefits of this sacred practice. The first challenge many people face is impatience. We live in a world of instant gratification, where we expect immediate results for our efforts. However, spiritual transformation rarely follows this pattern. The dissolution of blockages that have been forming for years, sometimes decades, often requires time. Some people abandon the practice after just a few days because they don't see dramatic changes immediately. Remember that even for the saints, patience was a virtue to be cultivated. If you find yourself growing impatient, recall the words of Padre Pio himself: pray, hope, and don't worry. The timing of your breakthrough is in God's hands, not yours. Trust that the spiritual work is happening, even when you can't yet see the tangible results. Look for subtle shifts, perhaps a greater sense of peace about your finances, unexpected ideas or inspiration, or small synchronicities that suggest movement beneath the surface of your circumstances. Another common obstacle is inconsistency. The power of this ritual builds with regular practice. Missing days or performing it half-heartedly diminishes its effectiveness. The 7-day sequence is important, as it aligns with spiritual principles of completion. If you miss a day, simply begin again from day one, recommitting yourself to the full 7-day practice. To overcome inconsistency, consider setting a specific time each evening for your ritual. Perhaps after your regular prayers or just before bed. Place your supplies, the bowl, salt, and towel, somewhere visible as a reminder. You might also find it helpful to keep a simple journal of your experience, noting any insights, feelings, or changes you observe throughout the process. Skepticism can also become a significant barrier. Even as you perform the ritual, you may find a voice of doubt in your mind, questioning whether such a simple practice could really make a difference. This skepticism can create an energetic interference that blocks the very results you're seeking. Remember that faith is not the absence of questions, but rather the choice to trust despite them. Throughout Scripture, we see that Jesus often connected a person's faith directly to their capacity to receive miracles. According to your faith, let it be done to you, he told the blind men seeking healing. The ritual creates an opening, but your faith determines how wide that opening becomes. If doubts arise during your practice, acknowledge them without judgment, then gently return your focus to prayer and intention. Sometimes saying aloud, "I believe, help my unbelief," can be a powerful way to invite divine assistance with your doubts. Some people encounter resistance in the form of intensified problems during the early days of the practice. Perhaps financial pressures seem to worsen temporarily, or new challenges arise unexpectedly. This experience, while discouraging, is actually quite common in spiritual work. It often indicates that deeply embedded blockages are being stirred up before they can be fully released. Padre Pio spoke of this phenomenon, likening it to cleaning a very dusty room. Things often appear messier in the middle of the cleaning process than they did at the beginning. If you encounter this type of resistance, see it as confirmation that the ritual is working at deep levels, and redouble your commitment rather than abandoning the practice. Another subtle obstacle can be unworthiness, the unspoken belief that you don't deserve abundance, or that poverty is somehow more spiritual than prosperity. Many well-meaning Christians have absorbed the false idea that financial struggle is a sign of holiness, when in fact, Scripture repeatedly speaks of material provision as one of God's blessings. Jesus came that we might have life and have it abundantly, a promise that encompasses all dimensions of human experience. If you sense that unworthiness may be blocking your reception of prosperity, add this prayer to your ritual. Lord, I release any false beliefs about my worthiness to receive your blessings. I accept that you desire good things for me, and I open myself to receive with gratitude all that you wish to provide. How can you know if the ritual is working? Look for these subtle signs that blockages are beginning to dissolve. First, pay attention to your dreams. Many people report unusually vivid or meaningful dreams during the 7-day practice. These often symbolically represent the release of old patterns or the emergence of new possibilities. Second, notice any spontaneous insights or ideas that come to you regarding your financial situation. These inspirations are often divine guidance, showing you practical steps to take as the spiritual blockages clear. Third, be attentive to unexpected connections or opportunities that arise. These might initially seem small or insignificant: a conversation with a stranger, an invitation to an event, or a piece of information that catches your attention. These are often the first tangible signs that new pathways are opening. Fourth, observe changes in your emotional relationship with money and provision. Many people report feeling a surprising sense of peace about their financial situation, even before physical circumstances change dramatically. This shift from anxiety to trust is a powerful indicator of spiritual transformation taking place. If you experience any of these signs, take heart and continue the practice with renewed faith. They suggest that the ritual is indeed working, even if your complete breakthrough hasn't yet manifested. For situations of severe or persistent blockage, perhaps generations of poverty in your family, or financial difficulties that have resisted all previous attempts at resolution, you might consider extending the practice to 21 days. In biblical numerology, 21 represents a complete transition from one state to another. Alternatively, you might repeat the 7-day cycle 3 times, with a day of rest and thanksgiving between each cycle. Throughout your practice, remember that this ritual is not operating in isolation, but rather in harmony with other spiritual principles. Continue to be generous with what you do have, as giving creates spiritual openings for receiving. Maintain an attitude of gratitude, acknowledging even small blessings that come your way, and remain open to divine guidance regarding practical actions you might need to take in your financial life. The hand purification ritual creates an opening, but you must still walk through that opening with wisdom and appropriate action. The ritual might bring a job opportunity to your attention, but you'll still need to prepare for the interview. It might inspire a business idea, but you'll need to develop and implement that idea with diligence. Divine provision often partners with human effort rather than replacing it entirely. Padre Pio himself taught that we should pray as if everything depends on God and work as if everything depends on you. This balanced approach, combining spiritual practice with practical action, creates the most fertile ground for prosperity to flourish in your life. Now that you understand the spiritual foundations of the hand purification ritual and how to overcome common obstacles, let's explore how to integrate this practice into your daily life for maximum effectiveness. While this 7-day intensive ritual creates a powerful initial breakthrough, incorporating elements of this practice into your ongoing spiritual routine can help maintain an open channel for prosperity to continue flowing. The most basic way to extend the benefits of this practice is to create a simplified version for daily use. Each morning, as you begin your day, take a moment to rinse your hands with plain water to which you've added a few grains of blessed salt. As you do this, say a simple prayer: Lord, through the intercession of Padre Pio, I consecrate my hands to your service today. May they be channels of giving and receiving according to your divine will. This takes less than a minute, but serves as a powerful daily reminder of your commitment to remaining open to divine abundance. Evening is generally the most powerful time to perform the full ritual, as it allows the spiritual work to continue through the night hours when your conscious mind is at rest. However, if your schedule only permits morning or afternoon practice, these times can still be effective. What matters most is your ability to be fully present and undistracted during the ritual. For those facing particularly challenging financial situations, consider combining the hand purification with specific prayers that address your unique circumstances. Padre Pio was known to recommend certain prayers for different situations. For those seeking employment, add this prayer to your ritual. Padre Pio, through your powerful intercession, guide me to the work that God has prepared for me, where my gifts can be used for His glory and my needs provided for abundantly. For those dealing with business difficulties, you might pray, Padre Pio, bless the work of my hands and the decisions of my mind. Bring divine wisdom to my business affairs and open doors that no man can shut. Protect me from unwise partnerships and guide me to opportunities aligned with God's will for my prosperity. For those struggling with debt, add this petition. Through the intercession of Padre Pio, I ask for divine assistance in resolving these financial burdens. Multiply my resources, guide my decisions, and reveal pathways to freedom that I may not see on my own. The power of the hand purification ritual can be amplified when combined with other spiritual practices. Consider integrating these complementary approaches. First, maintain a gratitude journal. Each evening, after completing the ritual, write down 3 specific blessings you noticed that day, no matter how small. This practice helps shift your awareness from scarcity to abundance, creating a powerful attracting force for more blessings to enter your life. Second, incorporate visualization during the ritual. As your hands rest in the salt water, vividly imagine prosperity flowing into your life. See yourself paying bills with ease, having resources to share generously with others, and experiencing the peace that comes with financial stability. The combination of physical ritual and mental imagery creates a powerful alignment between your outer actions and inner beliefs. Third, extend the purification beyond your hands to your entire home environment. Once a week, dissolve a tablespoon of blessed salt in a quart of water and use it to sprinkle the corners of your home, especially areas related to your work or finances, your home office, the place where you pay bills, or where you keep important financial documents. As you do this, pray, Lord, as this blessed water purifies this space, remove any negative energies or blockages to abundance. Fill this home with your presence, protection, and provision. While the primary focus of this practice is spiritual transformation, be attentive to practical inspirations that may arise during or after your ritual. Many people report receiving unexpected insights about actions they should take regarding their finances, perhaps a realization about unnecessary expenses to eliminate, a forgotten resource they could utilize, or a new opportunity they hadn't previously considered. These insights are often divine guidance, working in partnership with the spiritual clearing you're creating. Remember that prosperity isn't solely about financial abundance. It encompasses well-being in all areas of life. As you practice the hand purification ritual, remain open to improvements in your relationships, health, creative inspiration, and spiritual connection. True prosperity is holistic, touching every dimension of your experience. A beautiful dimension to add to this practice is the element of giving. As you begin to experience greater flow in your life, look for opportunities to be a channel of blessing to others. Even while you're still working through your own financial challenges, sharing even small resources with those in greater need creates a powerful spiritual dynamic. Jesus taught, "Give, and it will be given to you," revealing a spiritual principle that transcends our limited human understanding of economics. Padre Pio himself was known for his extraordinary generosity, often giving away anything of value that came into his possession. He understood that generosity of spirit creates an expansiveness that allows greater blessings to flow. Consider designating a portion of any financial increase you receive, even if it's just a few dollars, as a gratitude offering to help others in need. Finally, be mindful of the words you speak about your financial situation. Our words have creative power, either reinforcing old patterns or helping to establish new ones. After beginning the hand purification practice, make a conscious effort to speak words aligned with abundance rather than scarcity. Instead of saying, "I can never afford that," try, "That's not a priority for me right now." Instead of, "I'm broke," say, "I'm in a period of financial transition." These simple shifts in language help reinforce the new patterns of prosperity you're establishing through the ritual. As you continue this sacred practice, remember that you're not alone on this journey. The communion of saints, especially Padre Pio, stands ready to intercede on your behalf. The divine desire for your well-being is greater than you can imagine, and countless others have walked this path before you, transforming their relationship with prosperity through these ancient spiritual principles. The hand purification ritual is ultimately about more than financial improvement. It's about restoring your hands, your work, and your material life to their sacred purpose as expressions of divine love and provision in the world. When we remove the blockages that have separated our spiritual life from our material existence, we begin to experience the integrated abundance that has always been God's intention for His children. As we come to the end of this journey together, I want to take a moment to reflect on what we've discovered. The simple yet profound practice of hand purification with blessed salt isn't just a ritual. It's a doorway to reconnecting with God's original intention for your life. A life where prosperity flows, not as an occasional blessing, but as the natural state of a child of God, walking in spiritual alignment. Padre Pio, with his extraordinary spiritual gifts and profound connection to the divine, understood that our struggles with prosperity are rarely about God's unwillingness to bless us. Rather, they stem from invisible blockages, spiritual, energetic, and emotional barriers that we often don't even realize we're carrying. Through this sacred practice, we address these blockages directly, creating space for divine abundance to flow once again. Think for a moment about how different your life could be just 1 month from now. Imagine waking up without that heavy feeling of financial worry. Imagine checking your bank account with a sense of peace rather than dread. Imagine having enough not just for your own needs, but enough to share generously with others. This isn't a fantasy. It's the abundant life that Scripture repeatedly promises to those who align themselves with divine principles. The beautiful truth is that prosperity isn't something we need to chase or force into existence through sheer willpower. True prosperity is our natural state when we remove the obstacles that block its flow. Just as a river naturally flows unless something dams its path, God's blessings naturally flow into our lives unless something blocks their movement. The hand purification ritual simply helps remove those dams, allowing what was always meant to be yours to reach you at last. As Padre Pio often reminded those who came to him for guidance, pray, hope, and don't worry. These simple words contain profound wisdom for our journey toward prosperity. Pray, because divine connection is the foundation of all true abundance. Hope, because expectant faith creates a spiritual magnetism that draws blessings toward us. And don't worry, because anxiety and fear are often the very blockages that prevent God's provision from reaching us. I encourage you to begin this sacred practice tonight. Don't wait for the perfect time or until you have special materials. Even with the simplest bowl, ordinary salt, and sincere prayer, you can begin the process of transformation. The power lies not in external elements, but in the faith, intention, and divine grace that infuse them with spiritual potency. If this message has touched your heart today, I invite you to write Padre Pio, open my hands to receive, in the comments below. This simple act of faith declares your readiness to begin this journey of transformation. And when you share this video with others who might be struggling with similar blockages, you become a channel of blessing yourself, extending this sacred knowledge to those who need it most. Remember, we're not just a community of viewers, we're a family of believers supporting each other on our spiritual journeys. Your comments, your testimonies, and your prayers create a beautiful tapestry of shared faith that strengthens everyone who encounters it. Before we part, I want to remind you to subscribe to our channel and activate notifications so you don't miss our next video, where we'll explore another powerful teaching from Padre Pio about protecting your home from negative energies. The wisdom of the saints is a precious inheritance that can transform our daily lives when we apply it with faith and devotion. May your hands become pure channels of divine prosperity. May the blockages that have hindered God's blessings be dissolved completely, and may you walk forward from this moment in the abundant life that has always been God's loving intention for you. Through the powerful intercession of Padre Pio, may your cup overflow with blessings that transform not only your life, but the lives of all those you touch. Thank you for joining me in this sacred exploration. Until we meet again, remain blessed and open to the infinite possibilities that await when we align ourselves with divine abundance.